I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and I coach track for Wichita State, so we're down here for a track meet, and I had a couple hours free to go check things out. And behind me, that's the Sloss Furnaces. It's a National Historic Landmark. It was a blast furnace plant where iron was made from 1882 to 1971. So looks pretty interesting. I don't know anything about this, so hopefully we'll find some things that you all will find interesting as well. Before we go out to the furnace, let's take a quick stop in the Visitors Center. So this building houses exhibits, an education room, gift shop, event space, offices, restrooms. So you're going to find out this is now a art area, and they make some interesting art here at Sloss Furnaces. A lot of guns on display. You can see over on the wall the Sloss baseball uniform. This was basically a community, so they had their own baseball team, their own school, and so quite an area. So it has some displays about, all the different iron and coal and things like that. I believe this is probably for young kids. They probably have educational programs that come in here often. And then obviously a history of Sloss Furnaces, bit of a history about Birmingham, Alabama, and then some of the equipment. So it's not a huge museum or anything, but enough that it's probably worth stopping in to check out before you take the actual tour. Today was a little bit rainy, so good chance to get out of the weather if it is raining, and it does have some interesting information. I like this photo of all the people who used to work here. So you get this brochure, and it's a self-guided tour, and then it gives you a very good detail, and it's laid out very nicely, organized very well. You can see this is where the tour begins, and the first thing here is the number 2 casting shed. So this one's covered where iron was poured from the furnace. It now houses the world-renowned Metal Arts program. Artists teach classes, demonstrate iron pouring process, create artwork, and host public events. Sloss Metal Arts also hosts the National Cast Iron Conference every 2 years. They bring over 600 artists from all around the world here to Sloss to share their knowledge. So that area is closed to the public, but you can see some of the things they have on display as you walk past it. And one of the things you notice when you're walking through here is just how enormous the place is. Kind of driving by on the road, you don't get a feel for it, but when you're right inside here and you look up and you see how large this machinery is, it's pretty interesting and kind of intimidating in a way. You can imagine what it would be like working here. But yeah, just walking through some of this is pretty impressive. We're approaching the boilers on the right here, and these boilers produce the steam that powered the entire facilities. Sloss had 16 boilers, 12 built around 1910 and 4 added in the 1920s. Each one held large drums filled with water, heated mostly by coal and waste gas from the furnaces. the steam-powered equipment like blowing engines, turbo blowers, skip hoist, and other machinery in the powerhouse. The stock tunnel was closed today, but this tunnel system moved raw materials into the blast furnaces. Trains arriving from mines and quarries would unload these materials into large storage bins above the tunnel. Workers inside the 250-yard long tunnel would open chutes to release the materials onto a scale car below. The car weighed out the ingredients, then loaded it into buckets on the skip hoist. The skip hoist carried the materials up to the furnace ramp, where they were dumped into the top of the furnace for smelting. The ladle car on the left was used to transport molten iron from the furnaces to the pig caster. The ladle car would be pulled into position and tilted to pour molten iron into the molds. The molds were then sprayed with water to cool the iron before being flipped to release the solid pigs into waiting rail cars. The automated system replaced the older, more labor-intensive floor casting method. This is called the number 1 casting shed, as we were in number 2 earlier, and it houses one of the 2 furnaces installed in 1927 to replace the 1882 furnace. These furnaces were fed a continuous mix of iron ore, limestone, coke, and hot air, reaching temperatures up to 3,800 degrees Fahrenheit. As materials melted inside, molten iron and slag collected at the base. Every 4 hours, workers would open up the iron notch, allowing the iron to flow out of the furnace. Till 1931, Sloss used the floor casting method to shape the iron into bars. The shed floor was filled with sand, and workers carved mold patterns directly into it. A central trench carried molten iron from the furnace, branching off into ingots. Workers thought the ingots looked like piglets. This is how they came to be called pig iron. The process was phased out in 1931 when the pig caster was installed, mechanizing the casting process. Sloss continuously used 5 million gallons of water per furnace every day. This was used to cool the furnaces, create steam, power machinery, and cool the molten iron and slag. After it was used, the hot water was then piped to spray ponds, cooled, and then recycled back through the plant. Slag, a waste product from the iron-making process, was drained from the furnace every 2 to 4 hours into this pit. Similar to lava, the growing slag was either left to cool in the pit or sent through the slag granulator, where it was then sprayed with water, cooled, and then crushed. It was used in products like concrete, insulation, and drywall. They have some displays that talk about some of the historical parts of Sloss Furnace, like they have a school there, they had a picture of a baseball game, so unfortunately it looks like these need to be updated. I'm sure there's some cool photos right there. We're right above the tunnel that I talked about earlier, so you can kind of see down from above where all this happened and how they would move all the materials. And then right across the way is the railroad tracks that are still running today. Next up, we step inside to the blowing engine building. So in the first 2 rooms here are the 2 Ingersoll Rand turbo blowers installed in 1949 and 1951. These steam-powered compressors replaced all 8 of the original blowing engines behind them. Compact but powerful, the turbo blowers forced high-pressure air into the furnace and generated intense heat. Indoor temperatures reached 120 degrees in the summer. Now we step in to the oldest building on the site, built in 1902. These steam-powered engines stand over 30 feet tall and drove massive 20-foot flywheels at about 30 revolutions per minute. Though built in the 20th century, they represent the peak of 19th century technology that powered the Industrial Revolution. Each blowing engine had 2 cylinders, one for steam and one for air. Steam moved the pistons in the first cylinder, which powered a second piston to compress air and send it to the furnace. These engines were incredibly loud, comparable to standing in the front row of a rock concert. Right in front of us there, that's the powerhouse, built in 1922. It supplied electricity to the plant and to the nearby worker housing known as Sloss Quarters. Steam from the boilers powered a turbine upstairs, which spun a generator to create electricity. The electricity produced was alternating current, which then passed through machines on the ground floor that converted into direct current needed to run the plant's equipment at the time. These tall cylindrical structures are hot blast stoves. They preheated the air before it was sent into the furnace. Each stove has a steel shell lined with heat-resistant bricks and filled with a lattice of fire brick called checkers. To operate, waste gas from the furnace was burned inside the stove to heat the checkers. The gas was shut off and the air was blown through the hot checkers, raising temperature to about 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. The superheated air traveled through large brick-lined pipes into the furnace, making the iron-making process more efficient. I hope you enjoyed this tour through the Sloss Furnace Historical Landmark. This is free, open to the public, and definitely something I was not very familiar with, but glad I made the visit.